Here it is. When we first were thinking about this conference, Professor Evert van der Zweer, who unfortunately in all likelihood will not be joining us this afternoon because he called in sick this morning. Hopefully he will recover soon and will be able to join for later parts of the conference. When we first, Alfons Bruning, myself and Evert started to think about this conference, we set together from our various perspectives on working on Oriental and Eastern Christians, and we were struck by the fact how much has changed over the past 100 years or so, and we thought it would be nice to bring a variety of people together, both from Oriental Christian studies and from Eastern Christian studies, and see whether we could piece together something of what has been happening, not just in the communities and their interactions, but also what has been happening in the scholarly community. So I'm really glad that despite the fact that we kind of minimized the conference to a certain extent, that so many of you participate by presenting papers, but also that so many of you are joining us here. So again, a big welcome to all of you on behalf of my co-organizers, Evert and Alfons. And a big welcome also to our speakers, especially of today, Professor Alexander Akadjanian, and then the keynotes for later this week, for tomorrow and the day after, Professor Dr. Maria Hemmerly and Professor Dr. Jose Casanova. And we are very glad that they could join us for this conference. One of the things that I realized I was really kind of hesitant about and was thinking I would miss are all the small chats and conversations that you usually would have in a conference, in the coffee room, over dinner, during drinks, and all of that. So we decided to open up what we have called a Facebook coffee room. So please, well, if you feel for these chats as well, subscribe yourself to this closed room and join in the conversations that are going on there. We will close this room in about a week or so. We don't intend to keep it up and running, but of course there's other ways to keep in touch with the conference organizers, with the Facebook site of Global Orthodoxy, with the EVOC site, and all of that. Just two important notes. Everything regarding the conference organizing is in the hands of two people. The first one you've already met by email is Loes van Beuningen. She is dealing with all the issues with Zoom links and all of that. So if for one reason or another you're stuck, she's the one to get in touch with, and your email address, you will have her email address. And the other one related to the Facebook page and the ERC project is Ms. Elise Agazarian. So these are the two people that you could contact if there's anything that you need to know. And we're really very happy for all the support they've been giving us over the past weeks and months. One more thing for those maybe new to Zoom. For this small introduction of mine, there will be no chance to ask questions. We can get to that later, either via the coffee room or in other contexts, but for the next lecture and the panels later, there's ample time for discussion and questions. And I think the easiest thing is that you put these questions in the chat of the Zoom, because that makes it easier for those who are chairing it to see what's going on, because the number of people is too big to just wave, because we won't probably see all of you. So let's say a few words more about what we have been thinking about global orthodoxy. So the rise of global orthodoxy, transnational Oriental and Eastern Christian communities in the 20th and 21st centuries. That's where we started from as organizers. And one of the big questions on our minds was, how have these Orthodox churches, and in fact, on the one hand, we're speaking about a variety of churches, but I think one of the main issues of the conference is also that we're speaking about orthodoxy or global orthodoxy, about something that in some way or another is mutually and connected, interconnected, and that is what we find so interesting. So how has this changed over the past century, especially since World War I? And the second question is how this has impacted both the diasporic communities in the host countries, but also, of course, the communities in the homelands. And part of this is a matter of hierarchy, of organization, of clergy. Part of this is something that is going on in a much more subtle way, in practices, in the way icons and images are used, in the way the liturgy, the singing, and whatever is changing. So there's a lot of work to do there, I think, for us as researchers. And finally, I was hinting to that already, these communities have been impacting each other, Oriental and Eastern churches, but they've also been impacting the new context. So I think there's lots of things going on, and that's what we like to flesh out a bit in the coming days. One starting point for me personally was is the ERC project that I've started about a year ago, which particularly focuses on the Oriental Christians in Europe. And that is something I've been working on Oriental Christians for a long time, but mostly in the Middle East, in the home countries. And now I've been starting to track what is happening in Europe. And as you can see, the examples here of the textual practices that are the basis of the project all come from the Syriac Church, because that is where most of my earlier work was done, and where I kind of got the sense that something really important is happening here in the way in which these churches, and by now we can see the same thing in the Coptic Church, in the Ethiopian and Eritrean and Zawahdo churches, the way these churches are dealing with, on the one hand, transmitting their heritage to the new context, and on the other hand, changing it, adding stuff to it, is really very interesting, and tells us something how they see themselves in the European context. So that is the main point of the project. And we use a variety of methodological approaches. So we're not just looking at the text as text in a classical philological way, although we want to do that as well. But we also do corpus analysis, so taking them together, and very importantly, have a look at the images that are being used. You can see already in this kind of very, not entirely random overview, which I've posted here, is that you see very traditional images, you see photographs of the homeland, and you see images that come from other traditions and that are being incorporated in the Syriac tradition. And so we find that really interesting to flesh out further. The two other aspects of the project are contextualizing what is being published, how do people view what is being published, and then at the next level, compare the various churches with each other. And then there's a couple of themes that I've been seeing coming up also in all of your contributions. So we will speak about that in many different ways in the coming days, about the change of identities, the tensions between religious, ethnic, and national identities, the issue of church-state relationships, and then, of course, the whole issue of secularism, modernity. How, on the one hand, how are these churches contributing to that, and how are they dealing with it? But it goes in different directions. They also contribute to the discussion of these issues in the European context. All of this, to conclude my starting notes, have to do also with larger issues. And I think this is something that is really important to me, and I'm not the only one. I've been reading up on several issues, and I see lots of researchers in our field more and more realizing that the study of Eastern and Oriental Christians really should be brought into a larger context. And I think the big debates that are going on at the moment, both in more anthropological studies, ethnographic studies, sociology of religion, but also the things going on in say, contemporary history, globalization and Christianity, the debates in that respect need to be enriched by bringing in what is happening in Orthodox churches, in Orthodoxy, in global Orthodoxy. Not only because when we bring these in, it will really enrich our sense of what a globalized Christianity means. All too often, Christianity is only Protestantism and Catholicism, and maybe a little bit of some of the Pentecostals. And I think we really need a much broader sense of what Christianity is and could be in these debates, especially because these debates are the really urgent debates about what is modernity, modernities, what is secularism, secularities, how do these concepts develop and change over time. So we need that discussion to be enriched by orthodoxy, but we also, I think, need it the other way around, because maybe all too often our studies of Eastern and Oriental Christianity have been a bit parochial, in the sense that we were looking at our particular church and our particular context. And I think we need to enrich that. And in fact, seeing what you all of the participants and the contributors have brought to the table, I'm sure this will happen in the coming days. One issue, of course, that is dear to my heart is that we really also bring in the Oriental Christianities into this discussion, because so far the interesting stuff that is out there is mostly about the Eastern Orthodox and globalization in Eastern Orthodox context. And I think we need these two into discussion with each other. And that is also very important when we talk about Europe, not just as a geographical region, but also as a concept. And then the last point I've already hinted at, I'm convinced that we can only do that when we bring in various types of methodological approaches together. So both the social sciences, anthropology, sociology, political sciences, maybe even cognitive sciences, and then bring them with the humanities, the history, philosophy, theology, religious studies, philology, linguistics. It's too much, of course, for one researcher. We really need each other to do that. We need to work in teams. We need to see each other perhaps more often. So I'm just throwing these in to set you thinking about it, set you thinking about the topics for the coming period. And I really look forward to all the contributions that are coming in the days ahead and this afternoon. So I wish you all a lot of success and enjoyment in the coming period. And I hope to see you at various places, virtual places that is, but various places in the coming hours and days. So thank you so much.